Good afternoon, White Pine County School District. This is your Superintendent Adam Young, and I am joined today by three mighty professionals in our district-wide student support team: Lisa Peterson, Casey Brewer, and Steffani Thompson. These individuals support the not only the academic growth of our students, but the social, emotional, mental health uh, needs that they have, as well as the families who are we obviously view as an integral partner in shaping the types of experiences for our students so that they can grow to be the leaders that we all know that they are. So appreciate you all for taking a couple minutes to talk today. So um, you might be aware that our Nevada legislature passed a law in this last legislative session directed towards school districts to really codify expectations around digital personal device use in schools, so primarily cell phones. Um, I think as a school district, we have and continue to really embrace the idea that technology is an incredible learning tool. It opens the world up for students. It allows for collaboration and for development of many of the competencies that we prioritize in our portrait of a leader. And frankly, it's probably never going away. And in the workforce, also is viewed as something that's a really necessary and helpful tool. At the same time, I think it's also fair to say that there's widespread concern societally and in our education system about some of the negative impacts that technology can have on young people and on the rest of us who aren't so young as well. So, from a mental health perspective, I'll just maybe we can start with this question: what do you all see as some of the harmful effects that screen time usage and technology usage has on the young people that you work with?
Do you want to start?
Sure, sure. I we it's an addictive, as we see. It creates a dopamine rush, which is addictive. We see our children not getting adequate sleep. They're staying up later than they should. We are staying up later than we should. We historically we are meant to be social, um, tribal survival creatures, and we want to be social. So the technological advances and that connection that we get from the cell phone, the connection that we get it's enticing. It drives us to be together. Um, it also takes away from that connection that we're getting, that we need face to face, eye to eye. Um, and then that takes away from our social emotional connection of um, relationships and family connection. And we're seeing that in our children's mental health.
Yeah, and so they have correlated the increase that the like he called it a hockey stick increase in anxiety and depression among teenagers. It correlates with right around 2011 and 2012 when all kids started getting smartphones and the screen time just really went up. And so there's a huge correlation there with um, now what was it like 95% of high school students have a phone, and so that correlates in a crazy way with the increase in mental health disorders among kids. And you see it, I mean, I see it at the high school with kids. They can't ever disconnect. So if they're having problems with their friend group or negative interactions with peers or whatever, they go home from school and they don't ever get away from it. It's coming at them all the time because they don't ever disconnect, which again is a vicious cycle, and it increases their anxiety and their depression. So
Yes.
One thing that I've seen, especially with the younger kids, is they're exposed to a lot of like adult things that would not be appropriate for younger kids, and so they know a lot more. Yeah.
At an earlier age.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that was said that made me think a little bit about this is like that the fact that we can be connected because of social media and texting and these other types of things that are meant to bring us together, Casey, like you said. And yet I can't cite the study that I've seen this on, but I think it's pretty widely reported that despite that ability to be connected to a greater degree, that feelings of loneliness, not just this is, I'm not talking about young people, although it's true there, but just like there have never been higher reports or greater numbers of people confessing that they feel lonely in the history of since that data has been connected or collected than there is now, despite the fact that all of these opportunities to to connect digitally exist. So that just made me think of what you were saying, that we have this at our fingertips, but for some reason people still feel really lonely a lot of times.
Absolutely. We're in an epidemic of numbers for anxiety, depression, suicide, overdose for drugs and alcohol. The disconnect, if you, there's several surveys of individuals saying that they have no close friends, but they have thousands of followers.
Yeah.
It's associated with kind of like it kind of implementing it. It's not real. It's not a real friendship. It's not a real relationship. We are using the internet, we are using social media to replace real relationships, and we're not getting the other part. Conversation, 85% is nonverbal. We are social beings. We release hormones, we release dopamine, we release nonverbal communication that we need face to face, eye to eye. Our children need that. Our children also are not disconnecting. They're not getting the time that they need to be bored. They're not getting the time that they need to be in their mind. They get done with their test and they're on their phone. They are at home, they're in their room, they're on their phone. We aren't getting time to be bored. We're sitting, I was in the airport the other day and everyone was on their phone. We don't have time to be in our mind and our thoughts. We need time to think about what we're thinking, what we're feeling. The internet, it's perfect to capture us as who we are, based on, okay, we're hunter-gatherers, we like to explore. When we were children, we went out and explored the mountains, right? We went out and explored the streets. We can't do that now, so we let our children explore the internet. They're finding things they shouldn't be finding. But we get a dopamine rush when we find something, right? It's reinforcing. They also, we're social. There's survival in numbers, right? The more followers you have, the more friends you have. But they're not real. They're not, say, the calories that you would get from food. But you're feeling like you're getting them, so the more you want. It's kind of like if you are taking in Diet Coke or, those non-caloric things.
That's a really good analogy, thinking about like those empty calories that, bags of potato chips and soda and candy really taste good, and they give us a real rush when you're eating them, and then an hour or two later you're like, oh my gosh, why did I do that?
It's not feeling what you need, and that's kind of what the internet's doing for us. It's not feeling that connection we need, and we're seeing that with our children. I'm seeing that at the den, and not just the den, everywhere. We're seeing it around the United States. I can't say that just at the den. I do a parent-child therapy. We can do it with children. And we see that in the still face, where we need to have that connection, that attachment We need to have the parent-child connection. Put down your phone, put down the entertainment, and just have the human connection with your baby, with the child, with your spouse, with your teenager. Sit at the dinner table, talk. 85% of your communication is nonverbal. We're doing texting and we're missing a lot of the communication. We're creating fights, we're creating a lot of disconnect because we're not getting those nonverbals that we're missing.
Yeah.
I was just thinking when you were talking about that and what Adam said too about the loneliness, at the high school, and again, that's where I see it, but it's everywhere. It's probably not just nationwide, it's probably global, but
Global.
The kids will, and the adults, not just the kids, it's like you're isolated in a room full of people because the kids will be at the lunch table together and every single kid is on their phone. They're not talking with each other, and so I feel like it's that way at home with families too. If everybody's in their own room with their different device, or even in the same room with their own device, it's like isolation in numbers, kind of,
You see it at a restaurant.
yeah.
It's pretty ubiquitous at this point in time, and it feels maybe, I don't know, I guess I'm just saying this out loud and curious your reaction. I think sometimes it feels easy to get kind of swept along with the currents, and even as parents, well, all of these other 12-year-olds have phones. I guess my kid really needs a phone.
I'm
And-
guilty.
right, and so we all are, and in reality, it might not be a need, it might be a want, and so I guess where I'm going with that is to say that sometimes it feels inevitable that this technology is part of our lives, like we said at the beginning, it's not going away, and I don't think any of us are here to suggest that, but more, how can we be, just all of us together, be a little bit more thoughtful about what some of the maybe unseen impacts of this are, or at least they're unseen in the exact moment. But now, to your point, 13, 14 years later, after cell phone acquisition became kind of just like everybody's got one now, and so now you see some of these impacts from 5 years, 10 years, even 2 or 3 years that might not be exactly evident in the moment. So again, part of the reason for having this discussion today is our Nevada legislature has said, schools, make sure you have it really clear what this policy is, and of course in our school district we've had a policy for 10 years, if not longer, but it's easy to kind of slip, because much like parents who sometimes I think feel like, what am I going to do? I think teachers sometimes get really tired of fighting with kids, and so it becomes easy to kind of ignore, and then then it's just not helpful. So we'll be asking our students to make sure that their phones are completely away during classroom instruction time. That's not a new expectation, but it is definitely one that our families can expect to be re-emphasized. We have one-to-one devices in all of our classrooms, so there's really not a need for students to have their personal device out. I think part of the balance is supporting a family's desire to want to be able to check in with their child throughout the day, and we're all parents, and so we understand that. But we would ask for our families to limit those check-ins to times when a student's not in class, so that we can try to at least kind of have some boundaries in place to have a more kind of focused and dedicated learning space. But as partners, right, this is only part of how we try to address this as a community going forward, because We have them on campus for 10 months a day, 7 hours, or 10 months in a year, 7 hours in a day, and they spend lots of time elsewhere as well. And how we, as parents and community members, try to get a handle on this, I think, is also part of the challenge that we face. So, what recommendations, as the professionals who deal with students and families, what are some of the things that you have seen people use that work, as we try to strike this right balance?
One of the things that the school district has is parentguidance.org, and it's accessible from the White Pine County School District office, or the website, thanks. And that's a really good resource. Some of the information that we've talked about, even just today, the statistics and stuff like that, came from parentguidance.org, and I think it's really important that our parents know that, and it's completely free. They do parent training, and it's one-on-one. They work with a member of their team, and they can get specific advice and help to their situation, to their family. So it's a really, really good resource.
I'm glad you said that, Lisa, and I think about that because I think maybe sometimes there's a stigma that, it's like, it's kind of the whole mental health stigma to begin with. And I will confess that I've literally said these things myself. I am not going to go get therapy. I am not going to, that's for other people. Well, no, it turns out it's not. It's for all of us, it is not a failure as a human or as a parent when you go, I might need a little help to figure this out. That's okay. Like, that's part of breaking down the stigma. It's okay to share and to ask for a little bit of help.
Yeah, and we're happy to help. Yep.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think at one thing that I could suggest maybe at the high school level is making sure your kids have, I guess at any level, but at the high school level, it's a little easier to be involved in other things outside of school. So if they have healthy alternatives to just going home at 3:40 and being on their phone until they may or may not go to bed at 10, maybe if they, join it, if they try out for a team, if they join the drama club or the culinary club or whatever, it gives them a healthy alternative and something to do that's not on a screen from the moment they get home until they're ready to go to bed. So I feel like for the older kids, that's it. Or they could get a job or whatever for the older kids. Anything that can help them be engaged in something else and around other people, I feel like is a good choice.
Recommendation that is really important, and making sure that the child is disconnected in the evening times, making sure that sleep is really important. I'm seeing a rise in the children that I'm seeing at my private practice with sleep and depression and anxiety, and then when we get in, just really seeing that they're not sleeping. We're in our phones at night, we're not disconnecting, we're not getting that sleep hygiene. Educating, talking, getting educated on, turning off your phones in the evening time. Your brain is making melatonin at nighttime. Being able to find out how to turn off your Wi-Fi at night so they don't have access to the internet at night, and making sure they're getting adequate sleep. Our younger children need up to 10, 12 hours of sleep at night. Our high school age, they need, 10 hours too. Sleep is important. Their frontal lobe is not developed. They need our help. We need it. It's important.
Yeah, one thing that I've seen come across in some of the literature that I've read is suggestions for all of us as parents to, like, one that I've seen is, when it's bedtime, the all of the family's devices go into the family room. They're in a drawer.
Away from.
And we don't send our children and our teenagers to bed in their room by themselves with their device.
That's the big thing that we're seeing is young kids, they don't have the willpower to shut it off.
Right.
They don't know to turn off the screen. That blue light, it's creating serotonin, which is that wake up your brain is getting confused between the sun and the screen. It's creating that wake up. It's morning and it's getting confused. It needs that melatonin. It's time for bed. Shut it off. Put it in the other room. Help them get that sleep they need. That's when they're growing physically. That's when they're growing mentally. That's
Yeah.
when they're growing to help their brain to learn the next day. These kids are coming to school tired and they're not learning.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we talked about even because of that blue light effect, really the kids, all of us need to be off our phones probably an hour before bedtime.
Yeah.
So that our minds are ready.
Another thing that I've seen is this idea of, was alluded to a bit earlier, that there's going to be a dedicated time besides what we just talked about, where nobody has their device in the family, and we're gonna sit there and look at each other awkwardly until we figure out how to talk, or maybe it's during dinner time, or whatever it is, but it's okay to say no. We're all going to put it away, and then we as the adults need to lead by example in being true to that. Have you seen that that's something that is helpful for families?
I have seen people do that. I think it would be a fantastic idea. May implement it in my family. But yeah, I think it would be really good. I think one of the battles with that, I think not just for teens, but even for adults, is that term they call FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. And so they're so afraid, or maybe we all are so afraid that if we set it down, we're gonna miss something that we just absolutely need to know and be out of the loop. And so I think that's one of the battles that's hard to fight with everybody when you're trying to make these boundaries.
Yeah, that resonates for sure. Like, and I think that goes back to the dopamine, which is you get that ding, and you're like, "Oh my God, something major must have happened." It's like some random tweet or whatever, you know. Oh, I could have lived without that. I didn't need to know that. It turns out. Another thing that I myself have heard some parents kind of grapple with is like the settings that allow a parent access to their child's social media feed, and kind of this maybe tension between wanting to respect the autonomy of your young person, especially as they go into their later teenage years, versus being like, no, I'm still the parent, there's nothing that's going to go on that I don't know about. You know what I'm saying? So, what suggestions or advice do you have about that concept?
I think it's important for parents to know who your children are interacting with, what is being said, who's sending what, and images and things like that. It's really important for parents to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are going on where the children are being targeted. We actually had just about a month ago where we were targeted for
Nefarious
Yeah.
purposes.
Trafficking.
As you say.
Yeah.
And we need to know their frontal lobe again is not fully developed. They need us to protect them. And as the adults in their lives, we need to know what's going on. There's a lot of bullying, up to, I don't know the exact statistics, but 40 to 60%, I want to say, of our children are being cyberbullied, and a lot of them do not tell us. And sometimes that can lead to suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts. Some of the statistics show that a child that spends, I think it was like 90% of our children are spending up to 9 hours a day on screen time. I think it was 5 hours. A child that spends up to 5 hours a day, 75% are more likely to have suicidal ideations and suicidal thoughts. I mean, that's 75% more likely. That's huge. We need to know what our children are doing. We need to be aware. I'm not saying don't give them their privacy, but we do need to know if they're being bullied. We do need to know if they're being targeted,
Or
groomed. It's happening.
Yeah. And it's an uncomfortable topic. I think since we're on uncomfortable topics, I'm going to bring this up, and but I think one thing that I have noticed as well is part of like the young teen, 13, even sometimes down to 12, and then up through the 20s and beyond. Dating culture is exchanging of uh, nude pictures and sexually kind of graphic uh, messages and content. And I think it goes without saying that I don't even need to ask the question. That is a bad idea, right? And yet it speaks to the point that sometimes those things are going on with teenagers who are very young and don't understand that when that image gets sent out, it no longer belongs to me. The person who's receiving that can and sometimes does do things with that image that can have lasting impacts. So for any of our young people who are watching this, don't do that. Don't send a picture of yourself ever to anyone, no matter how much they ask, no matter how much you feel like you might love them at the time. Don't do that.
And don't think it's going to disappear because you sent it on Snapchat.
right, it's not.
It's
Yeah.
They're not disappearing.
it's
Yeah.
out there. And getting it back, it's out there for good.
Yeah. Well, again, part of the purpose of this is, we're not sitting here to say that technology is a bad thing. As a school district, we really embraced the power that comes along with technology as a learning tool, and it's certainly made all of our lives more convenient. I think my hope with this discussion is to build awareness, to acknowledge this policy that is promulgated at the direction of the Nevada legislature, and just to allow for space for this conversation as we all. It's very complex. It sounds like it should be easy. We'll just ban everything, but if you've tried that as a parent, you know how that works. Things become a forbidden fruit, and then all of a sudden it's all about the battle of wills and who's going to get away with what. So we don't see that as a viable alternative, especially in the year 2025 when literally every job under the sun requires a certain degree of technology literacy. So we're not here to say that. It's more of how do we together keep this conversation at the forefront, try to have appropriate boundaries, and use the tool in a way that's helpful while minimizing the things that are, it's clear that are becoming really negatively impactful for human development. So I appreciate these three ladies joining me for this. Their contact information is all on our district webpage if you look under family resources, and they're as well as the other parts of our team that work alongside these three incredibly talented and knowledgeable individuals ready to support all of our students and families. So you can find them there. And thank you, and we'll see you again very soon as school gets up and going.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.